quite accurate, but there's a worse in the genetically modified grains and things. That's why there's allergies with wheat. A lot of people, because the body's not tolerating, because it's been genetically modified. Corn the same, and soy is the same. They're the one of the worst thing. And then you've got canola oil that gets put into all of our pre-packed food or fried in it, which is toxic, it's an oil that is used for industries. It's not an oil that is used for human consumption.
So what's your thought about canola oil for cooking?
It's the worst thing you can ever do. Is you're putting rat poison every time you eat it. I've got documentation in research that people that have worked in the canola industries, their limbs fall off. Their nose, their hands, it's so toxic to the thing. It's fumigated. You put canola oil on a material, it will take you 20 washes and the canola oil is still there. You put olive oil on a material, after 2 washes, totally gone. So you make your assumption. An industrial plant, it's because it's so hardy, they're genetically modified. I'm not quite sure, I can't remember off the top of my head what the actual plant is, but it's a hardy. It comes from the family of, it comes from this.
So you would advise people not to use canola oil?
They should do their research, but the thing is that it's so devastating what it does to our bodies and to our organs. If it stains a cloth and you have 20 washes and it still doesn't come out, well then what is it going to do to our organs? If you, it's just like calcium deposit. If calcium deposit gets built up on our inside of our intestine and our bowels, well, it doesn't matter what. I mean, our bowels is like this. Doesn't matter. Well, if you got blood, all of this is calcium deposit, and you put in minerals and vitamins, it won't absorb it because there's a layer of calcium deposit on it. Well, if you're going to have a layer of this canola oil on it, nothing is going to penetrate it.
So from a symbiotic relationship, does this mean that certain enzymes and certain vitamins are not assimilated into the body because it's blocked them?
Correct. And the thing is, that's why having colonics, it's so good, because if people had a bad diet through, which we all had, while we were raised up and all that, colonics is very good because you'll strip off a lot of these calcium deposits, and a lot of these things build up on our bowels and intestines and our stomach. So it's about purifying ourselves, and even then we might have, because we've got an inherited weakness that is being inherited, and because the lifestyle we've inherited from our parents or our grandparents, we eat the same. It's a real struggle for us to change our way of life, because it's something new, and when something is new, it's not going to be comfortable.
So in other words, probably it's one of the causes that is triggering obesity?
Oh, definitely.
How does it do that?
Well, when you genetically modify our food, and genetically our body, just a simple process is when you heat a vegetable, you heat it, you actually change the molecular structure of that. The more you cook it, the more those substances are no longer there. Homogenize and pasteurize our milk. You're doing the same thing. You're changing the cations and for our body to absorb. I mean, milk is designed for a calf to be at certain tonnage. Have you ever seen a calf after it's weaned off its milk to ever have milk again? It will never happen. Anyhow, look at nature. And then why are we, the Western world is having the most lactose, dairy products and everything else, and we've got the most highest osteoporosis and breakage of bones and everything else. That didn't exist in Europe.
But that's also been emphasised from the use of fluoride, hasn't it?
Yeah, well, it's a compounding effect. We've got the fluoride, we've got the calciums, we've got our waters is not pure. I mean, back home in Europe, we used to have fountains. We used to have them dig deep in the ground. We used to have a fountain that used to be high in lead, in copper, in magnesium. There was the minerals in that water. And if you would have a shower or a bath in that water, like for me to go there.
So we're not only getting the poison in the food from the farmer's end, then we get the poison in the food when it's brought into storage.
And then you
and then we process it and we get more poison in it.
Yep.
So we've got 3 lots of poison that's coming into the food we eat. Is that the way you put it?
It's probably more than 3 lots, but like our water, for instance, it's tampered with. Well, he was to say, I mean, like cures like. I mean, if you're going to recycle your water, and you're going to have people weeing, which is people are taking drugs, people are taking anticonceptional drugs, and all sorts of other chemicals and everything else, that gets recycled, goes into the ocean. Why do we have no more baby fish? Or they're sterile because so many people are taking anticonceptional drugs not to get pregnant, but they don't look at the devastation what happens to their offsprings in the 2nd or 3rd generation. I mean, when I worked at the hospital, there was young boys being impotent at 21 and 22, having surgery, and their girlfriend is sitting there. I mean, it's devastating at such a young rate. Why? Why don't people do this research of what happens with anticonceptional drugs? What happens to the body? What are the minerals and depletes the body? And then that gets it's not the disease that gets inherited, it's the weakness that gets inherited. It's just like a long time ago, people died of scurvy on ships, generations, because they all went on ships for months on end, and there was no vitamin C. As soon as they introduced the vitamin C, then no one died of scurvy. Well, everybody said, well, it's an inherited disposition, and my father died, my grandfather died, and my great-grandfather died. That means I have to die. What's wrong? It's a mineral deficiency.
Yeah, the old adage that people have been led to believe is wrong, that we inherited a disease. We cannot inherit a disease. We can only inherit a weakness that may cause.
Correct, and that weakness is done because if our parents neglected, or for instance, my father has been a heavy smoker and a drinker, and so has my grandfather. Well, if he hasn't had a good lifestyle for 6 to 12 months prior conceiving me, I'm going to have that weakness. So if I can conduct my lifestyle the way my father has or my grandfather has, I'm going to have devastating effects, because it goes down into this third and 4th generation when you start to see the deformities coming through the bloodline.
Now, Mary, where did you get all this information?
18 years of research.
18 years of research. And you have certificates or degrees on this?
Yes, I'm a classical homeopath. I've done a lot of nutrition. I've done a lot of, I do pranic healing. I do Sakhem. I've done nutrition, and I'm just a couple of modules off having a Bachelor of Health Science.
So over all this information that you've gleaned for 18 years, where do you see society going now because of all these poisons? What's going to happen?
The thing is that it's affecting our children, and our future of our children doesn't look very good, because you're looking at their behavior swings, you're looking at everything is in the base chakra, which is a sexual chakra, which is all about me, 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 me. It's not about us, it's not about integrating, and it's all about self-exaltation. And when you start to do that, that's the destruction of our society. Because as society to function properly, we need the artists, we need the musicians, we need the commerce, we need them all to integrate. Our society so far has always broken them in little particles and kept them segmented, which it's not. We're part of one, we are part of the universe, we're part of Earth. We need to go into and connect to Mother Earth, because Mother Earth has been good to us, but we're just stripping it bare and not giving back.
So your advice to people is to have their own backyard garden again?
Well, get back to nature, get back into taking children to play into nature, get them to hug a tree, get them to admire flowers, get to, well, hey, God is everywhere. God is in their nature, the universe, our angels and everything else. Look at the symphony of structures, how harmonious they're all interacting together. I mean, if we have one glimpse of our cosmos and our galaxy out of symphony, we get blown out of water. So people look at the big picture. Don't just look at at the end of the nose.
Thank you, Mary. That's a very interesting film clip. We'll put that up.